Hey, episode 95 of the Nashville Artist Podcast is now out, featuring the painting wonder Tony Sobota. Tony is obsessed with color theory and exploring deeper meanings in his work. Coming from a creative family, Tony fondly remembers his father making furniture and his mother taking him to a Vincent Van Gogh exhibit, which sparked his interest in art. Growing up in the 80s, he loved building forts, drawing, and playing Ninja Turtles on Nintendo. Influenced by Norman Rockwell, Tony discusses how seeing a photograph and then the painting evokes different feelings. He shares his journey of dropping out of grad school and making a living drawing caricatures, treating them as a business rather than fine art. Tony emphasizes the importance of not wasting time, especially in your 20s, and how deadlines boost productivity. He also reveals that his favorite painter is Salvador Dalí. Ultimately, he believes making the best art is about showing up, treating each piece like a journal entry. Enjoy the podcast episode. Right. Of course. So what did you do before this?
Tuesday's usually my busiest day, so I lead a men's group every Tuesday morning pretty early, and then today I stopped by a bakery after that on my way to get a haircut. And then after that I had a phone meeting before I hopped over here. So kind of a full morning.
Wow. Yeah.
It's not usually like that.
What's the men's group?
So we get together and pray. It's through our church, and so it's the emphasis is on life sharing and how we can what's going on in everyone's lives and how we can support each other and
being vulnerable.
Yeah. It seems like a harder thing to do with guys. So this group has been together forever, though, and they are. It is a great group of guys. But we had our last meeting for the year this morning. So
wow, that's awesome. What denomination?
So it's not really a denomination, but would be considered somewhat reformed in the theology, but if you're familiar, but it's mainly just gospel-centered, trying to be practical about how to serve people well, and so it's not really affiliated with a denomination.
I see.
Yeah.
Nice. That's good.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, I'll probably talk more about some of that later. But we'll go ahead and get started.
Awesome.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Nashville Artist. I'm Jordan, and today Tony Sobota is here.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Glad to be here. I was excited to be here, man.
Awesome.
Looking forward to this.
Sweet. So where are you from?
So I grew up in and around the Midwest. I was born in Dayton, Ohio, and we moved a lot as a kid. But we eventually landed in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and then I came to Tennessee for college in '98, and I've been here essentially ever since.
What college did you go to?
I went to Johnson Bible College, so it's a university now, but about 20-25 minutes south of Knoxville. So pretty close to UT. So I got to audit some classes over there too. But yeah.
Nice.
Knoxville. It's a good town. Spent 17 years there before moving here.
Wow.
So, yeah.
When did you move here?
So moved here in 2015, Cinco de Mayo, and moved here because my girlfriend at the time was here and grew up here, and we got engaged and married, and we're still married, so that's good. Hi, Michelle.
That's awesome. Do you have any siblings?
Yes, I've got 5 sisters and a brother.
Wow.
So I grew up with 2 biological sisters, and so when my parents divorced, my dad got remarried to a lovely lady, and she had 4 kids, three girls and a boy. So I got a brother out of the deal too. Actually, it's his birthday today.
Wow. What's his name?
Andy.
Happy birthday, Andy.
Yeah. Happy way belated. It'll probably be after that. But yeah. So grew up in kind of a smaller family somewhat with the 2 sisters, and then got a bigger family along the way that we call the mega fam. Pretty diverse crew of folks. And we're kind of spread out between Indiana and Tennessee, California, yeah, I think I covered all the states.
Are your siblings into music or art or?
Yes and no. So my 2 younger biological sisters were we were all into creative stuff.
What are their names?
So Nikki and Allison. And my sister Nikki just got her master's in architecture. So she's an architect, super
awesome.
cool. And my Allison has always been creative, and I still like some of her drawings and paintings are like some of my most prized possessions. She just always had the creative streak. She still does some creative stuff. Enjoys the paint by number kits that you can snag and just sort of lock into like a meditative state. Painting.
Paint by numbers. Those are cool.
Yeah. They can be pretty tedious and detailed too. I mean, some of those things get pretty intense. I don't know if you've ever.
I know. I just think the idea is really cool. Like,
yeah.
I can imagine a coloring book.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah.
Which is probably what I've done. I probably haven't done paint by numbers.
Yeah, I've done part of a paint by number, but it just got too tedious. I couldn't do it.
To fit it in the little spot.
Yeah, I just think the time. It's so funny because a lot of my work takes a lot of time and takes a lot of patience. That I didn't have the patience for that. But I do see how a paint by number, sort of removing a lot of the decision making from the painting process, and just getting to do the application of paint can be a meditative, practice, and just like,
relaxing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. For some.
What about your parents? Are they into music or art?
Yeah, I mean, they are and were creative. So my mom was a teacher, is a teacher, and was always kind of exposing us to creative things, and took me to some of my first museum exhibitions. And like the first time I saw Van Gogh in person was, we took a trip to one of the shows that was traveling the country, and that was awesome. But always, my mom was always doing creative stuff and exposing us to things. I always loved art, and then music for them too was big. Where each of us had to take piano lessons, for a year. And I ended up staying on for a few years, and that led into playing in the band and different, whole different thread. But my dad was also creative and made most of the furniture in our house, and was a woodworker for a while, and sort of very niche style in the late 70s and 80s. And he doesn't do that so much anymore, but very, very handy and creative, especially with woodworking. Yeah.
That's cool. What are their names?
Tony is my dad's name, so I'm Tony the second. And then my mom is Wanda.
Tony and Wanda.
Yeah. And then my dad's wife, my stepmom, is Joan.
Joan?
Yeah. Yep.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So what were you into as a little kid?
Yeah. I think, growing up in the 80s, I think toys, were really important. Of course, Lego. I was really into Transformers.
Oh, yeah.
That kind of stuff. But I think the main thing was, I can remember our neighborhood was, one of the neighborhoods we lived in was still developing and had a bunch of houses under construction. And so there'd be all these materials laying around. So we'd just go build forts and, throw little dirt clods at each other and pretend we had little wars and stuff going on. And then we would go back and, play Ninja Turtles on the Nintendo. And then I always remember asking, what do you want to draw? Drawing was just always there constantly. That was just what we do. Hey, what do you want to draw? That was like my fun activity with a friend. Like, hey, what do you want to draw? And so we would do that, and then they'd get bored a lot faster than I would of that, and then we'd hop back outside and throw stuff at each other again. So it's going to be much more challenging now. I mean, it's particularly, we've got a 5-year-old now that, with technology and an inundation of entertainment options, just seems like a different
landscape.
Different landscape. Yeah. I think we were entertaining ourselves maybe more than. But what generation doesn't say that? Probably. So.
Yeah, dude, the forts. I remember playing Mud Ball Wars.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had woods next to my elementary school.
Nice.
And we would make mud balls and then have wars and throw them at each other.
It hurt.
Big welts all over each other.
Yeah, I felt so bad. You hit someone in the face and they're crying and you're like, no.
Right.
What are
that always happens. Someone always gets hurt, but then we go back to it now I'm going to hit him even harder.
Yeah. That's what it is. Yeah. And especially growing up, in the winter, growing up in the Midwest, it probably didn't, but it felt like it snowed every day. It was just, snow on the ground all winter. That was certainly a source of play. But I think drawing was definitely one of, if not the main thing that.
What would you find yourself drawing a lot?
Well, funny enough, Jordan, I was just looking at some of these the other day. I don't know, I forget what I was looking for, but I was digging through some of my old drawings. So my mom kept everything. So all of us have this great record of what we were drawing at every age. And I thought they were going to be mainly peaceful. But as I looked through them, it was a lot of these characters angry and, lots of weapons. I didn't feel like I was a violent kid or into violent stuff, but all these weapons and guns and tanks and, invent these battles. And some of the stuff was, I also did these little comics, and most of them were pretty passive aggressive. One of them is the one that we have. My mom still has hanging on the wall is this classroom scene. It's me at a desk, and there's a teacher standing over me, and the teacher is just saying, "Don't draw, read." And all I'm saying back is, "I don't want to." And that's all the drawing is. It's like me just trying to do a doodle in class and, saying like, trying to get off of it. It must have. Yeah. It must have. I think it's probably happened to every artist at some point. Is like
quit drawing.
The greatest work starts in math class.
I'm listening.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That was little comics and things. And I eventually I started to draw like semi trucks and football helmets and whatever. I think it was my way of trying to be awesome at something. Maybe as a kid, it's like what is awesome? I want to draw that kind of thing. I mean, could it be that simple? I just remember the danger though of so 6th grade. There were two very specific instances where it could go really bad or really good. But I remember this drawing that some kid, I don't even remember his name, but he drew this picture of LL Cool J, and it was just, everybody went nuts over it. It was like, wow, this is amazing. This is awesome. Oh man, this is so good. And I wouldn't have had the words for that, but maybe there was a sense of, oh wow, like maybe that's how I can be awesome. I don't know. But the other episode was this kid who drew like the popular girl in that class, and just, of course, 6th grade, he butchered it. I mean, it was not good, right? You make her look like some sort of deformed
gargoyle.
So, and man, again, it was 6th grade, so every way that it could go bad for him, it went bad for him, and it was like, I mean, alarm bells, like, hey, this kid, how, just like with the LL Cool J drawing of that one kid, how it could go right, it could go really wrong. Like, watch out, pump the brakes, kid. So I think I remembered both of those. I don't know, but they were like really, both of those episodes were like really important to me at the time because I was just drawing all the time. And it kind of went from there. So,
that's hilarious. Reminds me of Napoleon Dynamite.
Yeah.
When he sent the drawing to her.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That kid lived it. He was bold enough to do it. Right. I mean, he did it, right? Yeah. He tried. Right. He spent what was it, 5 hours on the shading of the upper lip? Yeah, man.
That's hilarious. So, what first originally got you into painting and art?
Yeah, so like I said, I mean, always drawing all the time. And I think what kept me, I didn't try painting for a long time.
So drawing was like the main...
Drawing was kind of the main thing, the only thing outside of like a painting session in class, in an elementary school art class or something. But it was always drawing. And I think what kind of brought it to the next level, there was one summer we spent at an aunt and uncle's house. And I can remember drawing a lot just that week. We spent like a week there. And I was drawing baseball cards. I was drawing kind of whatever I get my hands on. And then at the time, Julia Roberts was like on every magazine there was. And so there was a People magazine of Julia Roberts' face, and I was like, well, I'm going to draw that. And did it in like the nerdiest way possible. I mean, I'm like, I was measuring things to get proportions and just trying to get it as correct as possible. And maybe I didn't think about this, but maybe I had that, reaction to that kid's drawing in the back of my head, like, can't mess this up. And so, did a fairly boring, competent rendering of this, of the actress. And I just then I would get requests. My grandpa, Pap, he would do these golf fundraisers. And so he grew up in the same town as the famous golfer Arnold Palmer. And so he would go to Mr. Palmer's country club or some of the golf events he was doing and get all this memorabilia autographed for these fundraisers back home in Ohio. And so as a thank you to Mr. Palmer, he wanted me to do a drawing of Arnold Palmer. So I did it off of a Sports Illustrated cover, 15 at the time. And Mr. Palmer sent me back this letter saying, like, thank you for the drawing. And, we enjoy your grandfather's visits, which I don't know that he actually did. Maybe, hopefully. And then a bunch of autographed stuff and a picture of my drawing in his office. And I think as like a high school kid, that meant a lot to me. Like, whoa, like this is really cool. Like I can draw something and there's a connection made there. There's a relationship. Like it's, and so I just kept at it. But I didn't get into painting until like after college, really. And I thought, oh yeah, painting will be easy because I know how to draw. And no, that's not the case. It's a different, you can build on certain things if you have some draftsmanship or whatever. But yeah, painting, it's a whole nother deal.
Did you have like early artists or certain artists you really liked at the time, drawing wise?
Yeah, I think, I'm going to lose like most of the audience here, but Norman Rockwell for me as a kid was like, wow. I mean, growing up in the Midwest, wasn't exposed to a whole lot of other stuff, but like his stuff, I mean, it was something realistic and well done and told a story. And I didn't realize until later. I mean, it's like saw the Rockwell exhibit at the Frist a few years back, and just how beautiful some of those colors and tones are, and just a section of canvas that's like the color white, and you look at it and it's like these fluorescent greens and oranges, and there's like so much else going on in there. But yeah, I would say, some people don't consider him an artist or really even a painter, but I was drawn to his work. And then Van Gogh, like I said, my mom took me to that Van Gogh exhibit, and it just blew my mind because you see pictures of things, and then you see the painting, and you realize you just need to basically throw away the picture of it because it's just a completely different thing. The painted object is just something else entirely, and captivated me in a way that I didn't expect. Then going up to, the Art Institute in Chicago, and seeing all the work there, and then I think another big leap was when I moved in with some friends in Florida in 2008 for like 6 months, and went to the Dalí Museum before it was renovated. And you sort of know about an artist and art history that's big like that, but seeing the Dalí paintings, especially the masterworks, the ones that are bigger than 6 feet, I mean, I'd never seen anything like that. It just, every inch of canvas was just covered in glory. It just like blew my mind. The content, especially the arrival of Christopher Columbus in America, that painting, and any one of them that was over that size, or the Corpus Hypercubus that's at the Met in New York. Just, I mean, these are paintings I had to eventually spend time with in person, just kind of soaking in. And then you could say fast forward all the way up to now, where anytime I get the chance to visit one of our great galleries or see a show, or get to the Frist, it's continually inspired by people that live and work here. We have an amazing community of artists here. So I mean, I would say I'm like a lot of people, that a lot of the work I see is going to be on a screen, but man, there's just something. I think Julia Martin described it this way as it's like it takes you to a childlike place. It just takes you like instantly. You're a kid and you're just receiving something. You're just there, that's just a beautiful, rare state to be in. And so if art has the power to do that, then to get to do that, to remember that, and try to be in that state, and then possibly even to provide that for someone else, would be a big, it's part of the hope, I suppose, of making things.
Yeah, to move someone with your work,
mm-hmm.
emotionally, or take them away.
Yeah, to provide an experience. And I never thought about it this way before. And I'm not a huge Jeff Koons fan, but hearing him describe the process of how, and it's not necessarily him, but his like studio process, all the people he has working for him, putting together all those details in a piece, in a work, is a way for caring for people. He claims that making sure all those details are just so is a way for caring for someone and providing them an experience. I never thought about that before, but
interesting. So in high school or college, did you do any like painting or drawing, or do any scholastic whatever?
Yeah, I had. So in high school, in middle school, you have to take an art class, you have to take a music class, language, all that. High school is when you get to choose what you take, but we didn't really have a choice, I guess, because I was in the band. So I guess you had to pick a creative art, and I wasn't able to take art because of band. And so I got to my senior year and I ended up dropping calculus for art. And I think the only thing that worked out was like a sophomore level art class. And I just loved it. Just like soaked it up. Had so much fun. Really connected with the teacher as well. So yeah, that was kind of like a one-off, like a side thing. Like, okay, cool. I got to take an art class. That was fun. And, I think I won something, they give out the Scholastic Art Awards. And then I ended up selling one of my pieces. It was a drawing of a bank, and I decided, I was like, well, maybe this is just like me as a 17-year-old kid or whatever, thinking, well, I made a print of it to give to them, and then they contacted me for the original, and so I ended up selling the original. It's still like framed in the lobby there, which is kind of cool. But that all came out of that first art class in high school.
And that was senior year?
That was senior year, yeah. And then I went to Bible college, so not a lot of art classes at Bible college, but I was able to connect with some artists at UT and did some figure drawing, ended up auditing some classes, and eventually I ended up dropping out of grad school to pursue art, and really started seriously doing caricatures for a living. And when I got to a certain point doing caricatures, that I was able to pay for some community college classes. So I would take painting 1, painting 2, drawing, like trying to take all the classes that I missed, and really loved it. It was at Pellissippi in Knoxville. Absolutely loved community college. And so that's when I really started painting. I painted a little bit before that, but really kind of picked up some more tools and started to kind of dive more deeply into the painting aspect earlier on.
Nice. So like after high school, it wasn't as much in college other than those painting or the classes?
Yeah, not so much in college. I mean, it was like kind of picking up scraps where I could. People were constantly, so Bible college is kind of a weird place. It was a great education, but it was odd in that everybody was always asking me to do things that I didn't know how to do. So you'd get asked like, hey, can you illustrate my book? Can you, a lot of illustrating books. There were people on different programs that would be like, hey, I've got this art project as a part of this project. Can you do this for me? So it really, at times was kind of overwhelming. Like there were, opportunities to do things, but it's almost like they were all designed to kill creativity. like here, paint this backdrop, or can you do this graphic design for this flyer or certain things? And so I started to think like, well, maybe I don't want to do that. Maybe I don't want to do this art thing. And I mean, I was pursuing a counseling degree at the time, but yeah, college, I would still do my drawings, and the main thing I was doing was caricatures. So I got a summer job as a caricaturist at a theme park and up in Ohio called Cedar Point. And so, I spent a couple summers drawing at the theme park, kind of learning the ropes. And then I started doing them with a friend at the zoo. Like we had a little operation there. And then I just started doing stuff on my own for a while. Just a smaller, I did a couple small festivals and then had a booth at the zoo in Knoxville. And the caricature thing was a way, I mean, it has been a way too for artists to get a foothold or get some income going, or start out doing something to find a way to support themselves. It was that for me. I never thought it would be a career. I mean, now it's like I've been doing it for 25 years. I still do it,
Wow.
I still do, party gigs where people hire me for parties, drawing for a couple hours. And then, I still do a few festivals where I'll go out and have my booth and people can walk up and get a drawing of them or their pet or, whatever. It's still something I do, although it's a smaller part than what it was years ago. But
what was your favorite thing to draw caricature-wise?
Caricature-wise, I think every caricature artist, no matter where you're coming from, you love it when, like, you mentioned the word gargoyle earlier. When a face presents itself that is like, oh man, this is gonna be epic. Like usually it's some grizzled older dude with a beard or something, or the thing is though, once you really start to see faces and where you can go with caricature, any face, like it's just fun. It's fun. Like we would say as caricaturists, we would all agree that like it's not about making fun of people. It's about like celebrating what makes that person different. Truly. I mean, truly. Like people are always wanting the horror stories of like, oh man, has someone ever cried, or you ever made someone mad? Or, I mean, those things happen, of course, but that's not what we're trying. Yeah, it's not the intention. That's what we're trying to do.
I'm trying to have fun.
Yeah. So it's, my friend had a podcast. In fact, it's supposed to be funny. It's supposed to be lighthearted, and
right.
Unfortunately, if you go more extreme on a caricature, that might bring up some old wounds or sensitivities, and some people more than others. But yeah, I think caricature has been the one consistent part through the whole career, and has taught me a lot about running a business and doing something repetitively and doing something that's not known as a high art form, but doing it to the best of my ability and wanting to serve people well with, just, hey, let's be lighthearted, let's have fun. Like, let's laugh. And remember that, So yeah, I'm sorry. I think I went off on that one. I can't remember the original question.
That's interesting. You said running it as a business. What does that entail as a caricaturist?
Yeah, so I do a few different things with the caricatures. One would be retail. Like I described, I have a booth at a festival that people could come up to and, buy the line drawing for $20, whatever. Like, a line drawing of your face. Or if you want me to color it in, it'd be $30 colored in. It takes about, between 5 and 10 minutes. I could put more people in there, but it's the aspect, the business aspect of it, I never saw as profound until later. But the aspect of committing yourself and your hand, to a drawing, to making something, and then instantly selling it, instantly, providing that for someone is quite a lesson. It's even though it's a small value, it's like telling yourself technically, like, hey, this has some value over and over. What you do has value. What you do has value. And so at this point with the caricatures, I have the retail, I have parties so people can hire me hourly. And then, sorry, this isn't meant to be a plug, but hire me hourly to show up at a party and draw. And the drawings are free for the guest. And then I also do some illustration. I got done with an illustration for the Opry. They have a class of new artists every year. And so I draw that class as kind of like a magazine cover style. So that's a digital illustration, but it's still sort of in the realm of caricature, but pushed closer to portrait. And so that's all done on the iPad. But that would all those would be lumped into the caricature bucket. And I treat the caricature stuff more like a business than anything. Is that, in terms of certain festival events, certain retail events I do are predictable. And so sticking to those retail events, using a booking site for when people book me for parties. And then, wanting to do the best job I can, but not getting lost on the ego aspect of, oh, I need this to be my art and I need this drawing to be the best drawing I've ever done in the world. Or, just saying like, hey, let's do the best I can. Let's have some fun.
Turnaround.
Yeah. So treating that more like a business than like a fine artwork. So
nice.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it reminds me of a story of Pablo Picasso. He was in a diner drawing on a piece of paper, and then he wads it up and throws it away. And then a woman walks up and grabs it out of the trash can and says, "Hey, wait, I would buy this." And he goes, "All right, that'll be $60,000." And then she goes, $60,000? That took you 5 minutes. And he goes, "No, that took me 50 years."
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All the accumulation of everything that,
Yeah, it's true, right? I mean, that's every artist's perspective is like, to someone, whether that story is true or not. I mean, I know I've heard versions of that.
Oh, really?
But it's true in the sense of truth. That nobody has any idea what the artist had to go through to get there. They just see it happen, right? Is oftentimes the case, right? I know I've probably been guilty of this too. Someone I just encountered for the first time, but I think having that sense of, man, this took me a long time to develop this skill. This took me, you're only seeing. A lot of times people come up at the caricature booth and like, wow, this is great. This is amazing. How are you doing it so fast? How are you so good? And I'm like, that wasn't actually so good. Or I'll think, but you didn't know how, this was not a linear process. You didn't see the thousands and thousands of horrible drawings I did to have to build on that to get where it's, even competent,
Right.
But they're just like, oh, what kind of witchcraft is this? What kind of spell are you conjuring up here? And how did you get that magic? It's like, well, this is tens of thousands of hours of practice.
Right.
And then I'm like, well, that's boring, but that's the truth.
I actually picked up drawing yesterday.
Yeah.
So why would you say you're drawn to painting, drawing, and art?
I have no idea. I have no idea. Everybody has their thing, right? I think kind of going back to that sixth grade thing, it might be, probably some of it is that same kid who thinks, wow, maybe this is how I can be awesome. Or seeing something that's awesome and thinking, I want to meditate on that. I want to think about that. I want to draw that. I want to depict that. I want to paint that. And I think it's just the way I think about things. I mean, when we're watching the Titans lose now, I love drawing the football players, drawing the reflections off the helmets or the figures as they tangle together in a tackle. It's just, I don't know. It's the way I think about things. Maybe I probably could, but I don't know if I could help it.
Right. You're a visual learner.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. If I'm a learner at all, I would be a visual learner. Yeah. Yeah, I've got to try it. I've got to do it. So maybe that's some kinesthetic. Is that right? But
actually touching it, like the kinesthetic aspect of like doing it physically, or what do you mean?
Yeah, like if there was an instruction book and you were reading me the instruction book on how to do it, I think that would drive me nuts. Like I wouldn't. I don't.
You would want to be hands-on.
Yeah, like can you show me what to do and then I'll do that. My dear wife can attest to this too. When before our current vehicle, when you had to like just have your phone out for GPS directions, and she would try to read me the GPS directions. I'm like, I need to see it. Can I just see it? So that's kind of the same thing as needing to see it and then needing to try it.
Right.
I don't know. I guess I feel like a lot of people would be like that, but maybe not.
Who knows?
Yeah.
We all learn differently. What is your favorite thing to paint?
So yeah, I've gone through a lot of different bodies of work. I think my the thing I come back to more and more is color. And I mean, of course, color theory is going to be always interesting because I'll never figure it out. But I think I'm really drawn to transitions, where the transition from light to shadow, what is the color in light? What is the color in shadow? I'm just always looking at that. I'm obsessed with that. What color is it? And making that transition smooth. There was this app called Blendoku. I don't know if it was like a game, and you had to order the colors in the correct order, meaning like
warmest
a gradient.
Coolest.
Yeah, and they would have it set up like a crossword. Like you had to order these colors, and for me, I love that. I don't know. I feel like that's what I do with my paintings. Is there's a transition there, which transitions are always difficult, but I want to think about, well, how can I make that a smooth transition as possible? And so I'm just right now I'm just zooming in, I think, zooming in on color, zooming in on the effect of light on a surface. I'm just always interested in that. And then what colors go together, what can you get away with in terms of color theory.
Nice. Do you have how do you develop your artistic skills now? Do you have routines? Or
I would love to have more routines. This time of year is kind of the wind down, is just doing some year-end review and some planning for next year, and some commissions. But I think on a typical day, which again, it's kind of funny to think about typical, but I drop our son off at school and then go to the studio. Studio is 5 minutes from the school. And
what's your son's name?
Micah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So dropping him off and then going to the studio, try to be there every day, even if it's for 45 minutes or an hour. Now, again, this past week, I haven't done that. There's just been other stuff going on. But typically at least an hour, but usually, there's a 5 or 6 hour painting session. I might be working on a commission, might be working on a show, but I wouldn't say I always have warm-ups, but I am in the sketchbook a lot. And, I tend to break things down by day instead of by hour. So it'll be a day of getting paintings going. So I'll get 6 or 8 paintings going, just kind of get a first layer on there, maybe 2 or 3 and then maybe there will be a day of, just focusing on one of those, and then getting to the point where you find something interesting in one painting that works its way into another, then things just start finishing. And whether that's helped along by a deadline or, open-ended, I am really thankful for deadlines. I definitely need that and work better under pressure and with a deadline. I wish I could work more, without one.
Yeah,
But I've learned that I work a lot better with that, with the deadline.
definitely.
Yeah.
It's got to end at some point.
Yeah. It's got to end at some point. Should be a poster in the studio. Hey, buddy, it's got to end at some point. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like that.
So, who are your favorite painters of all time?
Of all time, gosh, I've got to go back to Dalí. I think the impression that some of those masterworks, some of the bigger pieces left on me was, I don't know, of all time. That seems to have such a weight to it. And again, I think, it's funny that I mentioned these earlier on, but Van Gogh, I think seeing the magic of paint, just some of the simple stuff. There was, a lot, because a lot of his stuff is filled with the vibrant, brushwork and the crazy colors and stuff. But, some of his more muted stuff, simple, just really simple. And, but call it I don't remember the title, but it's like a grassy hill on a cloudy day. And how can you make that vibrant? Somehow that's alive. That painting is just alive to me. I'll have to go back and find that title. But yeah, I should have thought about that one more. But favorite painters of all time, it's really bad, but that kind of goes in cycles. I'll see. And I think when I saw one of Bill Killebrew's show several years ago, I was like, man, this is my favorite painter of all time. And then, or seeing a Jody Hayes piece in person, it's like, is this my favorite painter of all time? Or going to Rob Matthews' show at David Lusk this summer, I'm like, wow, this stuff is so good. Is this my favorite painter of all time? I mean, it seems to change. I don't know if I could make that judgment, but I just love looking at a lot of stuff. Yeah.
Have you ever looked at any Francis Bacon paintings?
I've never seen one in person.
But you've seen them online?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Intense.
Yeah, I think those are pretty interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very intense.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be, you talk about the life of paint. Those would be really, juicy, I think, in person. Yeah, that would be awesome.
Can you describe your creative process now?
Yeah, so I think if I'm working on a commission, there's a process. And then if I'm working on my own idea, there's a process. And there might be some overlap. But I like to, the past 4 years, I've kept a sketchbook of just freeform paintings and just play. I had a friend challenge me a decade ago and say, hey, do you ever just go into your studio and just see what happens? And I was like, no. And I realized, again, this was a decade ago, I realized he was just talking about play. Just you just go play. Just mess around and see what happens. And I realized, wow, I really want to do that. And it sounds silly. That was 10 years into my career to come across that. So I think now incorporating play as a regular part of things, saying play is just kind of finding what lights you up, and play is just kind of doing what you do, being who you are. And so there's no right or wrong way. And so keeping a sketchbook that's just focused on play is an important part of the process, because when a client is looking for a certain work, I can reference certain, sketchbook pages or whatever and say, okay, what about this direction? What about this? And that's a way to get into it. It's a way to say, okay, well, yeah, this, I could say yes to this project then because I can actually, this is going to be fun for me, which is going to make it sustainable. And then with personal work, the process is just, my last show is probably the best example of my process, is just taking cropped images from those sketchbooks and having those be sort of the seeds of bigger paintings and seeing what happens. Seeing like, well, that idea worked in the sketchbook. Does that work on a canvas? And then if it works, just expand on that idea. And if not, the beauty of paint is just paint over it. That becomes part of the texture and part of the history of the surface. So.
Nice. Okay, cool. Do you have like a dream project? Like if you have anything you could do?
Yeah, I think the project I did for the Music City Center was as close to that as possible. And that they commissioned me to do a piece highlighting their 10th anniversary, 10 years of being open. And so I just walked around the building for a day doing sketches and kind of just absorbing the feeling of the building and then turning that into an architectural abstraction that showed different views of the building and of Nashville. And I think any artist's dream project is something where the client trusts you and just like says like, wind up and let you go. Like, we just want you. We want you to do your thing. And so any project where, the client is trusting you to just do your thing with excellence, that's a dream. That's really a dream. There's one coming up that I'm excited about because it deals with like these personal histories and the history of this one town. And, I'm looking forward to getting into that because it'll bring back some more of the drawing that I love so much. So yeah, I think in short, just any project that trusts me enough to just do my thing.
Nice.
Yeah. Yes.
Man,
I mean, just magical.
I know. I wish I could. I love the Police.
Yeah.
They
unmistakable sound.
Get together and.
Yeah, who knows? I mean,
I love Stuart.
They're still around.
Stuart's drumming is just so incredible. It's like, it's not what he plays, it's what he doesn't play. That really stands out. Like, he doesn't hit the one. He's usually falling on the three. He's got an up tempo, which means the like syncopated hi-hat. Yeah.
Yeah. Man, don't know how you guys do it.
It's a fun, like, I don't know. It's like a workout and an instrument.
Yeah.
So,
I don't doubt it.
What would you say are some important things to consider when starting a painting?
Yeah. I think for me, some people won't think about this and kind of detest thinking about this, but I always think of like the archival quality. Is this going to be around for a while, or is this something that's kind of garbage? I mean, you have like in art history, I mean, you have great paintings on cardboard. You have great paintings on pieces of wood that have warped over the years and things. But I tend to think about, well, how can I just do this so that if somebody wants it around for a while, that it'll be around for a while. And so I think surface preparation for me is good. Like getting a few coats of gesso, sanded, and making sure the surface is sturdy, whether it's a panel or a piece of linen or something. But I think beyond that, for me, I like to start a painting with a lot of energy. That energy might not show up in the final, but my process is more like sort of finding where I'm going to go in the middle of getting there. I wish I had, I wish I could be more of an illustrator. Maybe sometimes is knowing what you want and just nailing that concept, but a lot of times kind of moving into an idea slowly and realizing once you get a hold of it, or once it gets a hold of you, then you start forming it into something. I've started a lot of paintings with our son, so it's kind of like a way to get around the perfectionism or seriousness maybe that painting can have, is just start with play and have him paint on something. Just give him some paint, and we're painting on it together, and just creating a mess and some texture, and some of that texture ends up showing in the final. Like I've had him paint on a bunch of I've had him start my biggest commissions. Actually, every one of them is he has started, and maybe that's cheesy, but
That's awesome.
I feel like it's a way to kind of disengage from the trap of expectations.
It having to be this prestigious thing, and
Yeah. Rick Rubin talks about that. He talks about, if you go into a work trying to make it the best thing in the world, it won't be. Making the best thing in the world is just showing up. It's just like showing up as a journal entry. Like this is just a journal entry. That gives you the potential, and like the critics and whoever else, they can decide if it's whatever, this or that. But that your job is just to do your journal entry, just to show up and do your work. And I like that.
Yeah.
That's definitely helped. It's helped me because I can get pretty anxious about what people think, and what people think. Maybe the artist is like, I don't care, I'm going to do my thing. But for me, I'm really concerned about, probably too concerned at times, with like what people will think, especially if someone's commissioning something.
Oh yeah.
You want them to be happy, and,
Right.
especially if there's a lot of more money on the line. It's like there's this pressure. But yeah, playing and thinking of it as a journal entry is just, hey, let's just show up. This is just a piece of what I do, and helps take the pressure off. I think it creates better work too.
Yeah, you can go into it more free form and free of your mind, and be like, it's already been blemished, so it's not like it can be worse off after this.
That's the idea. Mess it up right away.
Yeah.
Then you have a problem to solve. Then you have something to fix.
Exactly. And it's like, no, that was a perfect mistake, because now that's created this. Or like a starting point for your painting. Like, I didn't know what I was going to do, but now that looks like a rock. I don't know.
The famous happy accidents, right?
Right. Right. So what inspires your creativity?
Yeah. I think a lot of things. I love just light on a surface. I think I get lost in that. It can be our backyard. we don't have a fancy backyard, but it's just the light in the morning or the sun going down. It can be outside. I think these are things that are sort of common to humans, just being inspired by being outside, breathing fresh air, walking through a landscape, cycling through a landscape. I think one of the things I used to do that I never do now, that really inspired me, or used to, is listening to music while cycling through the city. So I used to do that when I lived overseas, and that fueled a lot. I don't know that ever turned into any creativity or drawings or paintings or anything, but that inspired me. And then I think I'm inspired by good news, like how they have more like good news sites now, or acts of heroism, or just small things that people do for one another that I think that's inspiring to me. I don't know that really shows up as anything in my work, but that's inspiring.
Yeah.
And our son really inspires me. And it's interesting because maybe parenting is also one of the biggest challenges or hurdles to like making the work, but it also inspires the work a lot. So maybe that evens out.
Yeah.
That levels out. And then going to art shows here. I'm not able to make most of them, but whenever I'm able to go see work around town or out of town, that's always inspiring. I had the chance to hop over to the arcade and meet some people and see some friends, and looking at work in person, I think, is important for me.
Definitely
Inspiring.
Yeah, being in the presence of.
It's different, right?
Yeah, it's definitely. Yeah. Okay, cool. So, what would you say your paintings represent?
Like a deeper meaning to them, or
or themes, or things that might be explored throughout.
Yeah. I think I know that my faith comes out in my paintings without it coming out, but I think like an order, underlying structure, a sense of beauty, sense of relatedness, of connectedness. I like to think of each different color as its own personality. And so when I'm working with color, my friend says that I have compassion for the paint, and maybe this is what he means. I don't know. But each color, I feel like, has its own place. And I'm trying to see if they get along. Like which of these colors get along, or are there groups of pockets of beauty forming, or what doesn't get along? Is one offending the other, kind of thing? They kind of grow into their own community, really. So I wouldn't say that, oh yeah, these are community paintings, but really, I think if they mean anything, there would be this underlying sense of order, and if not harmony, then a desire for harmony, a desire for connection.
Cohesion.
Yeah. Yeah, I think people would probably critique my work and say, you probably need a little less cohesion. You could probably use a little more chaos. Probably keep more of those underlayers in there. Don't clean it up as much. Have you ever, I don't know if you've done this, but had AI critique anything?
Yeah. As far as like a drawing or something?
Yeah, drawing or whatever. Or for me, like, the other day I typed in, just critique Tony Sobota artwork. Or you can just have it. And I mean, it will rip you apart. It's really pretty funny. It's pretty funny.
But I bet you learn a lot.
Yeah, it's like, wow, this is probably what people think. you know.
Do you find it
But
encouraging to have learned?
I think if you can learn anything, that's always encouraging, right? But I don't know that I learned from the AI critique necessarily, because you can just
calculator.
you can type in anyone and it's going to rip apart your favorite artist. Like but it does offer a perspective of, even though it's a fake voice, it feels real because that critique probably lives in you somewhere. And so I think one of the things it said was, like how, oh yeah, Tony Sobota never takes a risk or something, or it's like really safe. And I was like, I probably feel that way. I feel like I could probably take more risks, but I don't know what that means, because how can you really risk with a painting?
Maybe in your life or lifestyle.
I think you're right. I think actually
that comes out into the painting.
Yeah, I think you would have to. I think that would have to involve some kind of action.
Take boxing lessons or something like that.
Yeah, and again, I don't know that for me that wouldn't be a risk. That would just be fun. Like, I would love to have the time and resources to like take a boxing class. That'd be great. I mean, I just had surgery on my knee, so probably not in the next couple months. But like, what would a risk look like in life?
Maybe get like a fast e-bike.
No, I don't know. I mean, I don't know that there's an inherent value to just like taking risks, but
you never know.
I think
it will unlock things inside of you.
I do think there's a relationship between how you are living and how your artwork looks and affects people.
Right.
And so, yeah.
Like, you hear about all the famous writers that have their friends that are super sophisticated and wealthy, and they're like, here, come stay at my chalet and you'll be able to write for like a couple weeks at a time or whatever. And they go there and it's this amazing palatial place and they get to hang out and do whatever. But they often find that a lot of these environments are very stale for their writing because it's too nice, and so they find that going back to their torn up studio where everything's beat up and there's more charm.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the same thing with certain weightlifters. Some of the places that they want to work out in are the nastiest, grimiest, but that's where they, feel inspired.
Yeah. It's funny you say that. There's a place I like to write, and it's like a side of a gas station, little like fake cafe thing. I love it there.
Yeah.
It's perfect.
There next to all of like the candies and everything.
Well, this one's outdoors.
It's an outdoor.
So maybe that's a risk. It's like I'm right by, a truck backing up. Yeah. I'm risking my life over here.
Nice. Okay, cool. So how would you best describe the type of artist you are?
I think I'm a painter who will always be obsessed with color theory and color. But who also loves meaning. I mean, finding that there's a meaning that I'm engaging with in the work, and that doesn't necessarily have to convey one-to-one to someone else, but that there's a deeper meaning and sense of order to what's going on, and that we get to be involved in that. I don't know that that's the best description, but that's
It came from your
I
mouth,
believe those things.
Yeah. Awesome. Do you have a favorite time of day to create?
9:25 a.m. Yeah, I like mornings. I think it is nice that, because gosh, I wake up and it's go 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 until I drop them off to school, and then there's this sort of opening, and I think that lasts for a good 2 or 3 hours. Sometimes, like on days that I don't have anything else. And so, yeah, mornings, and a really close second is like 3 a.m., right? When I don't do this often anymore, but it seems like you're overthinking a lot less, and you're just doing the thing.
Less inhibited.
Yeah, that's as close to a journal entry as it gets. It's just it's almost like I don't care, and you're just going for it.
Is it when you get up at 3 a.m. or is it when you stay up till?
This would be like a late painting session, but these are not. I should be clear. This does not happen often.
Mm-hmm.
Usually, this is like before a deadline, or let's say I've got a pocket of time that, okay, I have to finish this week because it's due in 2 weeks. So I'm going to like schedule in a couple late nights.
You're not like pulling a Salvador Dalí where he's like, I'll stay up for days and then I fall asleep. And then as soon as I wake up, or I'll hold something, then I fall asleep and drop it. Then I'll like, as soon as I wake up, I draw.
That's a good trick. Yeah, fortunately, I don't need that because, again, we have a 5-year-old. So, there are days where I'll just, like this morning, I woke up at 4 and was like, I can't go back to sleep. And so it ends up being a productive time to get up and think. And like, it is interesting that when you're in control less, you have better ideas because maybe they're not coming from you. Or you just, it's like you get a download of.
Probably forces you to become more resourceful because you're like, now I have less time. So what can I do to maximize that amount of time?
Oh, parenting?
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Just,
yeah.
Whenever you have less time, you start to think of that time you do have as more precious.
Absolutely. Yeah. I was a dummy with my time in my 20s, like looking back. I was making progress at certain things, but when I look at it now, I just think, man, all you had was time. All I had was time. But
it dies
now,
hard.
Yeah, it has to. It has to. I think you're right that having less time focuses you, and for me, I've got to paint that 9 to 3, 9 to 5. It has to fit.
Make it happen.
It has to fit in that time. So it does.
Okay, awesome. What are your strengths and weaknesses as an artist?
Yeah. You mentioned resourcefulness. I think I'm pretty resourceful. I'll use whatever I have. That can also turn into a weakness, is that I'll end up not experimenting as much, or I'll not, I guess the weakness would be, well, what I have is all I need, so I won't go out and buy this material or try that material or whatever. I think a strength is I do have a lot of sort of natural drawing ability, and draftsmanship comes pretty natural, and structure. But I wish more of that translated into the business aspects, because I tend to be like, right now, I'm definitely not as structured business-wise. I guess since COVID, things just kind of got jumbled, and a laptop died, and I lost some spreadsheets and different things, and I've never been like completely back on track, with like business structure stuff. So that'd be a current weakness. And then I think I would love to connect more. I just don't have a lot of time to do that. So it's like, this is really great. And getting a chance to go out to an art crawl or a show or do a studio visit, I love that. Connecting, the weakness is, just so limited on time that it's hard to, find those times to do that. So yeah, maybe like a lot of artists, I could probably focus on weaknesses for a while, but I always see those as like the flip side of a strength.
Right.
So, what is the strength in that too? I'm learning this. So yeah, good question.
Cool. So you said you moved here in 2015.
Yes.
What initially brought you here again?
My wife, so she grew up here. She grew up in Hermitage. And we were dating for a couple years while I was living in Knoxville. So yeah, I moved here the spring of that year, and we got married in October of that year.
Wow. What would you say you've learned living here?
Well, I came from a farm in Knoxville. And when I was moving from Knoxville, they were trying to rebrand parts of the city as like Scruffy City, which Nashville is kind of, for better or for worse, like not that. Nashville's kind of shiny. But I've learned, like my first experience, one of my first experiences moving here was I had to go to the mall for some reason. And so I had my paint clothes on. I go to the mall and it's Green Hills Mall. I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm showing up at Green Hills Mall in like my paint clothes. And I didn't realize, there's like celebrities and it's just this cosmopolitan, people are speaking other languages, and it's just this like incredibly shiny place. And I was like, oh, what am I doing here? Like,
People start handing you money.
Now that would have been, I would have really, that would have got my attention. But I was like, man, I don't belong here. And, I've come to realize, obviously, that with all due respect to any of my friends who live in Green Hills, that Nashville is not Green Hills. So that,
Right.
there's a, an underground creative community that has been thriving for decades. And that Joe Nolan, he's beautifully described that. I've not gotten through the whole book, but, just knowing that there's a deep creative community that's still here, and perhaps somewhat maybe more scattered than it would have been a decade or so ago, but that's here, and part of what makes this town so compelling to me and so alive. So yeah, I came here very ignorant about Nashville, and so I've only learned. So the question of like what you've learned, knowing nothing really before coming here, I've learned
You were like
a lot.
pretty sheltered.
Yes, me and my now I sound like coming from some sort of cult. My little farm in Knoxville, but I think people outside of Nashville know Nashville for a few things.
Right.
And then living here and connecting with the people that you most naturally connect with puts it on a whole different level. Michelle was the only person I knew when I moved here. She was the only person I knew in Nashville, I should say. And so, all of our connections really started in the church. My first art show was in our church. Like, still some of our best friends are, a part of that community. And
What church is that?
this is the Village Chapel in Hillsborough Village.
Oh, okay.
Off 21st. But yeah, just knowing that there's just a vibrant community here, rather than the caricature, if you will, of Nashville as
Right.
Music City and all that goes with that.
I understand. What do you have a favorite venue here? Like to see shows or?
Yeah, I'd say the one we go to the most often would be the Ryman, but Exit was cool. Some of those smaller venues, like I haven't been to a show at Eastside Bowl, but like I've done gigs there. I've done like drawing gigs there,
Oh yeah.
and just it seems really cool.
Yeah, it's a cool place.
Yeah,
for shows.
yeah. I think some of those. Everybody would probably say that though. I mean, the smaller venues, getting to see like Drew Holcomb from a couch at Third Lindsley. I think those are we don't get a chance to get out and see many shows, but yeah, I'd say the Ryman. It's probably our most visited.
Okay. What about food or restaurants? Do you have a favorite food or restaurants?
Yeah, Maíz de la Vida has a kitchen in our neighborhood, and man, that stuff is so good. There's the VN Pho off of Charlotte. I mean, there's a number of Vietnamese places there, but the VN Deli is like our favorite Vietnamese. It's like, man, it just tastes like they picked everything right out of the garden. I can't think of other places right now. We actually tried to go to a Home Alone pop-up at one of the breweries recently, and then found out they weren't open for lunch. So we went to Plan B, which was somewhere else near 5 Points. Couldn't find parking, and then ended up just coming back to Maíz just because that's like we just love his food. So
Cool.
we're spoiled here, right? It's like
Right.
where your third option is a great one.
Right. Do you have a favorite gallery?
Yeah, I tend to go back to Lusk a lot. David Lusk. I really love what Julia Martin does, and I mean, I'm a part of the Nashville Artist Collective, so it's really great to see what those folks, some of my friends over there, what they do. Of course, the packing plant, and I mean, going to the arcade. It's really cool to see that up and running again. And if I'm down there, I'm going to go to the browsing room and stop by Tinny too. I mean, haven't mentioned our like probably most well-known gallery, Red Arrow. I mean, they've got she has such a great program. Everything I've seen there is just blows my mind. You said like, what's your favorite artist or what? I feel like every time I go there, I'm like, wow, this is amazing. This could be my favorite artist. There's just something Katie brings to the table with her roster that's just special. So yeah, I'd say we're spoiled for a city this size, having so many dynamic different programs. I mean, Elephant Gallery. Now I'm just naming all of them. We're trying, but I mean, seriously, yeah. I wish I could get to more.
I like Rockwall Gallery.
Yeah, Rockwall, Ryan. I mean, he does an amazing job of putting stuff in it. It's always engaging. It's always cool. Not to mention, I mean, the collection over at Fisk. Like, I think my favorite piece over there is the one of the cityscapes by forgotten her name. Big flower paintings. Georgia O'Keeffe. Oh. Yeah. Like one of her cityscapes. They have one of her cityscapes, and it's like, what? It's just so good. Yeah, we have a lot. We have a lot going for us here.
Is there what is some advice you'd give to someone who's going to move here and do art?
Yeah, if they're going to move here and be a painter, I'd say definitely go to an art crawl. It might be more crawl than art. Maybe they get packed, but go there to meet people, introduce yourself. And this is kind of a basic, and I haven't been a good model of this. today, of course, but ask more questions than talk. Like, just be curious, jump in. There's been people doing it here for years. I think a mistake. I heard this. Somebody was speaking with an artist in the Wedgwood, Houston neighborhood, and they said, "Hey, yeah, this was last year. Yeah, we're trying to start up an art community in the neighborhood." It's like, well, that's been there for a long time already. So just sort of assuming you're going to come into Nashville from New York or LA or Chicago or somewhere and just like, oh yeah, it's a small town. I'm just going to come in here and splash it up or whatever. Like, I don't know. Like, there's a lot that's already going on here that I think is interesting and alive. Yeah, come to the art crawl, get to know some people, start there.
Yeah. So, reflecting back on when you first started as an artist, what is one of the biggest challenges or hurdles you've had to overcome, and how did you get through it?
I think if you do it more than a couple years, you start wondering if you're crazy. Like, am I crazy for doing this long? There's actually a meme that my friend sent me. Maybe you've seen this, but it's the guy was like, if you're still furiously doing artwork well into your 40s, you missed your turn off to a normal life. And it's like, you look around and your friends are, doing their normal life. You're like, maybe did I miss my turn off there? Could it be easier if I, got a real job or did this? And I think there are certain points in my career where I've seriously contemplated that. And I think the challenge is discerning, do I keep going? Do I keep pursuing this as a livelihood? Or does this need to be, downgraded to a hobby? And I think I've just been, very, very, again, this is cliche, but very blessed enough to be able to get to do this every year, to get to do this type of work and to hopefully offer this, to keep offering this type of work into the world. And so I guess the challenge is like, do I keep going or not? And I think getting through it, I think really just comes down to this is what I'm called to do.
Surrender.
Like there's no plan B. Let's surrender or immerse. Just be in this. Stop saying maybe and say, if you say yes, say hell yeah. Like, if you say no, say hell no. like really mean it. Really stick to that. And again, maybe that's cliche or bumper sticker, but I think being able to recommit and say, no, this is what I do, and then seeing that grow year after year, encourages you, I think, to keep going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What would you say is your biggest personal growth from last year to this year?
I think I'm letting go of outcomes more.
Yeah.
I really think that's true. I think earlier on, I would have been a lot more obsessed about getting it right. And now I'm more concerned with showing up authentically or showing up fully or being present fully. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think this year's been a big growth in that. I did a collaborative project with some of the students at Montgomery Bell. And I did not, it was truly collaborative. There was no planned outcome. And so that's a big risk, is like that could go south pretty quickly and turn into just junk. I don't know. or just not good. But I think really focusing on being immersed in the process, being present, and letting go of those outcomes helped it actually to be a really great outcome, and ended up being a really positive thing, in every way.
Yeah.
So I think that's a big growth for me is, letting go of that.
Yeah. So how can people support you as an artist?
Yeah, I think if anyone, this seems funny, seems kind of petty, but like I appreciate any any comment, any direct message, anytime I bump into you at an art crawl and you say hi, certainly purchasing work, is directly supports our family, but like anything, and maybe someone doesn't recognize that, like, I just liked it, he didn't see that. It's like, no, I like any of that. It's like means so much to me.
Yeah.
It really does. Yeah.
Awesome. So how do you like to consume media? Do you have favorite YouTube videos or books or movies?
Yeah. So this is probably a bad habit, but I've been like watching shows on Apple Plus on my phone, which is probably not good. But I've been watching that show Silo, and mainly we're just, we'll catch a football game or whatever at home. Our life is consumed with our son's media. So a lot of Wildcrats, and I mean, it's always, he's really deep into Moana right now. So we're like all the songs and all the, we're acting that out at home. And so that's how we consume media, is listen to the song, sing the song to each other, and then act it out as you're singing, as you're cooking breakfast. That's like, it gets pretty layered there. But so it's very rare that I get to watch something that I like. It's just for me. So maybe that's why I'm watching it on my phone. It's like, I'll just find my own little pod over here. But I do like listening to podcasts in the studio occasionally. Thank you very much for your service, by the way. Wow.
Have you listened to this in the studio?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I think it's really cool what you're doing. Like, essentially, like gradually creating this archive of Nashville artists. It's pretty cool.
Awesome.
Yeah. I mean, it really is. I consider it a service, and knowing that, I don't necessarily like have an hour or two to like go talk to this artist or that artist or whatever. It's a great way to just hear about people and sort of virtually meet people. But
yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, happy to do it. Happy to add you to the archive.
Yeah, man. Dude, happy to be here.
Awesome.
It's an honor.
So, is there anything you would like to add that I might not have asked you about?
I don't think so. Man, I'm just, like I just said, just grateful to be here. Grateful to know you're doing what you're doing. Keep doing it, man. This is really cool.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm glad you were able to come over and be a part of it today.
Yeah. Yeah. Honored to do it, man.
Awesome. So I've got one last question for you. What is something absurd you love or do?
Absurd. Ooh. So I did make, I do have some YouTube videos that I've made. My very first one is called Ferocious Popcorn, and it's 1 minute long. So I was trying to learn how to make videos. This was like 15 years ago or something. And my friend and I challenged each other to make a 1 minute YouTube video, and we each picked a word, and then we picked a word for the other person, and we had to include that. So I think I picked ferocious, and he picked popcorn for me. So I had to make a video about ferocious popcorn. And so I decided to like give the audience the experience of like what it's like to hear popcorn popping, and sort of, it starts with nothing, and then it gets a little, choo, 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 and then it sort of gets kind of insane. It sort of gets great. And so I that's the arc of, of the video. And if you watch it, you will see a completely different side of Tony Sobota, a side you may not want to see. There's no nudity, but it's different. It's different.
So
what was the question? Absurd?
Yeah.
Very absurd.
Yeah, it's like Tim and Eric.
I don't know.
Tim and Eric, awesome or whatever.
Okay. The YouTube channel.
I think so.
Got it.
Yeah, they're hilarious and very like odd humor.
Yeah. Absurd. I think absurd. I really think a lot of us connect on that because there is a lot of. We're so connected to everything in the world, so a lot more is going to seem absurd, right? And so then we connect on that sense of humor, like, oh my gosh, did you see this? Can you believe this? Like,
right?
Yeah, it's absurd.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, Tony.
Yeah, thank you.
Awesome.
Glad to be here.